U-GeekTV.
Batman Cape Crusader basically came out of nowhere for me. Like I didn't realize that we were getting a whole new Batman show, and I'm happy that it's here because while it's not in the same echelon with X-Men '97 in terms of old cartoon shows that have gotten a reboot, it stands quite well on its own. Let's get into it.
Asking the question on everyone's mind these days, what do you think about the Batman?
I'm frightened. This whole city's gone to hell in a handbasket.
Well, he's breaking the law, ain't he? So they ought to catch that freak and lock him up.
Welcome back to U-GeekTV. I'm your host, Jarius, Unapologetic Geek, and we're back for another Unapologetic review. This time we are talking about Batman the Cape Crusader, which came out on Amazon Prime. So like always, on the front end, I'm giving a spoiler-free review, and on the back end, pause. I'm going to talk a little bit of spoilers here. I really want to talk a little bit about Harley Quinn and her version in this TV show. But without further ado, here we go with the spoiler-free review. Batman the Cape Crusader does a great job of kind of recreating those vibes of Batman the Animated Series. Now, the show is produced by Bruce Timm, who brought us Batman the Animated Series. And yeah, he brings those vibes right back here. The world seems new and familiar at the same time. It kind of gave me that feeling of being right back at home, which I guess 2024 is kind of just doing it all around in terms of 90s cartoons. I mean, we got X-Men '97, and I felt right at home with that. And now we're getting this show, and again, it feels like seeing an old friend again. So that was a little bit heartwarming to me. And the duality of Bruce Wayne and Batman is still ever present. Now, what's different here is on Batman Animated Series, it kind of felt like Bruce had been Batman for some time. Here, it still feels like this Bruce is still getting his feet up under him, like he's still developing. And of course, it's not, while it's not a prequel, it kind of feels like a prequel. Like these worlds are clearly separate, but I just appreciate this development of seeing kind of a reckless Batman in cartoon form. We don't see that a whole lot. Of course, it's been done many times in the comics, but seeing it in a TV show, like this Batman doesn't have all this shit together yet. He's still kind of learning to be a detective. He's still kind of learning to control that bitter rage that's inside of him. And there are some episodes that kind of tease and kind of dive into the trauma that Bruce suffered when it came to seeing his parents get murdered in front of him. Like you get that sense of, yeah, he's still not over this. And like that's something that we know, but it's more prevalent here. He can't get past this. And by all means, he truly is vengeance, and that's exhibited in this show. Even in his fighting style, like the way he handles business, like Bruce getting down on this show now. He beating some ass. The other interesting thing is the way the supporting characters are handled. Barbara Gordon is a real standout. In here, she's black, and they play that up. Actually, they play up race and gender quite a bit, which, of course, the woke or anti-woke crowd, they're not going to like this shit, but whatever, get over it. I appreciated how they handled it in the story. For instance, Detective Montoya, she's surrounded by a bunch of men, and then she gets kind of placed over this task force, and they're not having it. They're giving her issues at every turn. That was a story that resonated with me. You got Commissioner Gordon. They played up to a point where it's outright like called out by the mayor about his race, about him being black. And I do love the relationship that's on display between Barbara and Jim Gordon. It's very, like, I know in the past, like again, Batman animated series, we saw their father-daughter relationship, but they play up the love that these two characters have for each other a lot more, the way Barbara really worries about him. And then in this series, she's actually like on the DA team. I believe she's the assistant DA here. So they even have this intermingling of their work lives together. That was an interesting dynamic that I appreciated. But yeah, Barbara is a big part of the story as things continue to escalate. Then we get to the Rose Gallery, and this is when things really got interesting. I've seen a lot of back and forth about how things were handled online. Number one, Penguin is a woman in this universe, and I think it lends itself well to the story. And it's interesting because with her being not only a woman, but she's actually a mother, the way it's played up with her sons here is quite and quite intriguing. It's something that I would have liked to see play out over the course of more episodes. I thought it was an intriguing way to handle Penguin. Like we've seen him with other gangsters and his underlings and everything, but seeing a penguin that has children and how they treat them was pretty. It was cold blooded, cold blooded. Like, yeah, no pun intended. Then there's Gentleman Ghost, which gets us back to the supernatural side of Batman. Like one thing I liked about Batman animated series is that they would dive into the supernatural quite a bit. Like we had a werewolf there, we had Man Bat. Ra's al Ghul is honestly a supernatural character, but that's a different debate for another day. But we had those things in Batman animated series, and Gentleman Ghost in his episode is a representation of that. Clayface also has a really dope episode to me. The way he's handled here is very different. It's kind of creepy in a way, like not as creepy as it was in Batman animated series. Like that still kind of haunts me to this day. But the way it's handled here, it kind of gives a uh, serial killer type vibe. And then there's this mystery that kind of comes along with it. Is really cool. And then there's Harley Quinn. Um, Harley Quinn honestly was the most interesting character to me, like the way they changed her up. First of all, they completely separated her from the Joker. And actually, I'm gonna save my thoughts on that for the spoiler side of things. Yeah, we got some things to talk about. But that gets me to my verdict. For me, Batman: The Cape Crusader is a unapologetically legit TV show. That's a 4 out of 5. Yeah, so this show is definitely worth your time. Now, join me for a teensy bit of a spoiler discussion when it comes to Harley Quinn. So Harley Quinn is still a psychiatrist or a psych med doctor or whatever. And here she preys on the elites. Like she finds out their deepest, darkest secrets and she uses them against them. And it's interesting because Bruce Wayne, after an incident where someone kind of joked about the murder of his parents, Bruce loses it, beats the fuck out of somebody at a party, and he's ordered to get a psych eval from her or go to therapy with her. And it looks like she's really helping him, but she does say some things that are kind of out of pocket during their therapy sessions. And eventually, Bruce stops going to her. Well, you find out through another character who's going to see her, like she gets you to this point where she honestly kidnaps you. And it was so crazy. You see that she's like in one of her victims' houses or patients' houses, and she has like this dungeon where she's caging different patients who are super rich, and she's honestly breaking them mentally using what it was that she learned about them in the therapy sessions, and that is some crazy shit. And I really appreciated how they handled it. Honestly, I'm seeing a lot of criticism of Harley Quinn online, really just from journalists and stuff because they didn't care for the way it was handled. But only one thing stood out to me. I think Harley would have better been served as a different character, like a brand new villain, particularly for this show. And that's funny because she was a brand new villain for Batman animated series. The way that she is now, honestly, Harley Quinn as a villain could have been a big bad. And her episode is one of the more entertaining episodes out there, like when Batman actually focuses on coming after her. And she gets the best of Batman too. Like that's crazy. The only thing that really was her undoing was her friendship with Barbara Gordon. Like she didn't want her to be caught in the crossfire. And that's another great Barbara episode. Like she starts investigating Harley Quinn separately, and she comes to the realization that her friend is is legitimately a supervillain. And the dynamic that plays out between Barbara and Harley along with Batman as well, and Detective Montoya, who Harley started dating. The way everything comes together, it's really well done. And then by the end, you see that Harley survived. But yeah, I do feel like Harley could have been a different character altogether. However, what we got, I appreciate. And of course, they have separated her from Joker, but by the end of this, you see that Joker, he's introduced in this universe, and he may be like some kind of chemist or something. Like they show him experimenting with his the Joker or the laugh serum, and at the end, you get this chilling like look at him, and he's like, it's perfect now or whatever. I want to see if they now pair him with Harley Quinn and what kind of havoc they wreak in season two. And maybe the intention is for her to be one of the big bads in season two, but we'll see. So, Batman the Cape Crusader. What did you think? Let me know in the comments. Continue to like, continue to share, continue to subscribe. Thank you for everything you've done. And until next time, I'm Jarius, Unapologetic Geek, and I am out.